Jay Hernandez, can you do a video on Frenchy Bulldog bald spots? Alright, we'll talk about bald spots for a few seconds here. So, a typical thing that you'll see on especially puppies is they'll develop little bumps. And they may develop, typically you may see them on top of their head, you may see them around their muzzle. Yeah, it's kind of like puppy acne. And it may develop further, you may see little bumps all over their body, little raised spots all over their body. And what this is it's basically a staph infection of the hair follicle. And what happens is, the hair follicle falls out and there's a little bald spot there. So that's a pretty common thing for bald spots. What do you do for this? Medicated shampoo works great. If it develops and doesn't get better, then it's time for some Clavamox, time for some antibiotics. You have to go for your vet for that. So that's one reason of bald spots. Another one's going to be, there are two versions of mange. There's scarpodic and red mange, or Demodex and scarpodic mange. Demodex is the red mange. This is the more dangerous one, and it's the one that basically a dog really can't get in trouble with it. So what's going on with mange? All dogs have both Demodex and scarpodic mange on their skin, but they keep it under control, just like you and I, by the way, have other little creepy crawlers in our skin. But we keep them under control because our immune system's in good shape. And we fight them off, and it just is a balance there, just a little bit of these bugs around, and it's nothing significant. But what happens is if a dog is gotten a weakened or immune system, or it's sick or stressed, that can get out of control, and then you can start to see patches where the dog is itching and gnawing on itself. And it can really, in Demodex, you'll entirely lose all the skin on their body. They can die from it. So what you typically do to treat these things is you do a skin scraping and find out which it is of the two. The scarpodic mange is fairly easy to fix. The Demodex not so much. I've got videos on there, so I don't want to spend the rest of the time talking just about this, but you can go look at a video I've got specifically on that. But those are basically, you can get alopecia. Alopecia is people get it, various forms of alopecia where you lose skin on your head or your body. That's something that's pretty uncommon, and I would guess, I don't know, I've never come across alopecia, but if an alopecia, I think what you're going to do is you're going to go have a skin scraping done to make sure that it's not being caused by some kind of parasite that you can treat. I don't know what the treatment for alopecia is, probably not much of anything if I was guessing. Somebody said, I've had a dog with a heart murmur for years, now I finally can say I understand it after watching the video. Thank you, that's Alicia Marta. Pure Pressure Bully Kennel asks, so if I don't have a fluffy carrier and I breed to a visual fluffy, what percentage do you think a visual fluffy will show? None. So to produce a visual fluffy, the very least you have to have is both parents have to have a copy of Fluffy. If you bred a non-fluffy dog to a full fluffy, you'd get fluffy carriers. If you bred a fluffy carrier to a full fluffy, you'd get half fluffies and half fluffy carriers. Mr. Karim Quintero. How big do fluffies get? Because I see some fluffy Frenchies that get really big. What do you think about that, Tammy?
About some fluffies that get really big?
Yes. You've seen big fluffies?
Of course I have.
Yeah. There are lots of big fluffies out there. So kind of pay attention. Now, there's a couple of things going on here. Of course, one is that a fluffy dog versus a non-fluffy dog in the same weight will look bigger because it's got the bulk of the hair on it, which makes its outline, another inch bigger all the way around. So, some fluffies are really fluffy. We've got some fluffies that are just hairy little monsters. Johnny Cash would be one. I mean, he is a hairy little bugger.
He's got a triple coat.
He's got a really beautiful coat. Makes beautiful babies, but he is...
and little babies.
Yeah. But he is an example, by the way, of one of the bigger... He is on the bigger side, which there are a lot of fluffies out there. Our other four fluffies are not big, but you do see big fluffies out there, so pay attention to that.
They can be big and throw small babies.
Yeah, that's true too.
You can always ask to look at the litters that they have to make sure.
SD Kennel says, so do you have to DNA test to see if they carry the fluffy gene? Yes. If you've bred to a full fluffy, you know all the dogs carry the fluffy gene. If you bred to a fluffy carrier, you don't know without testing. So
And they
yes.
also do a test for the no shedding gene.
Yep.
And ours are no shedding.
Yes.
I knew that when I was giving them baths.
So Derek Franklin says, my dog's 2 years old, he's in heat for 8 to 9 days, it's her third heat. Second, I'm trying to get her pregnant, she isn't bleeding as much as the others. Does she have to be bleeding until it's on a period? Well, I mean, so the thing here is it's pretty variable. So, you know, most dogs start bleeding day 1, continue bleeding till about day 9. It starts to lighten up. That's around ovulation. We breed the dog 2 days later on day 11 or 13. So you're at day 9. You'd expect it to be lightening up. And when I say lightening up, it's going from a noticeably red cranberry color to a pink rosé or even a clear vanilla color. So it's a good indication of what's going on, but it's certainly not totally reliable. It'll get you, if you did a timing.
Wheat color.
Yes.
Vanilla. Yeah.
If you did a breeding on a dog just based on colour and number of days, you probably get the dog bred 70% of the time. If you did it with more reliable methods like progesterone testing, you'd up your odds to close to 90%. I have a blue fawn. If I breed her to a fluffy and the pups are fluffy carriers, once I breed them to another fluffy, will I get a few fluffies in the litter? You get half fluffies in the litter and half fluffy carriers. That's what you expect to get. So you take a puppy that is now a fluffy carrier and breed that back to a full fluffy, you're back to this half full fluffies, half fluffy carriers on average. Jenna Farmer, does a pregnant female always have a temperature drop before labour? The answer is no. My girl is day 63 ovulation, temperature has been 99.5 consistently. I'm taking it 2 times a day. Yeah, so there are times when you don't see a temperature drop. First one is you miss it. It goes down, it comes back up, and you miss the temperature drop. And sometimes the temperature drop only lasts for a day. So that's one thing. The second thing is that you've got a small litter, and the signals from the progesterone levels are not very solid. And those dogs tend to go long, and they tend to not see a very well-defined temperature drop. That's the second reason. And the third reason, it just happens. So what do you do in these situations? You start paying attention to everything else. And finally, if you're not sure where you are, you do a progesterone test. Progesterone needs to be 3 or less to safely take puppies. So get close to the right day to do the C-section. Check the temperature, look for a temperature drop, look for behavior. Not eating food, typically puppies within 24 hours. Nesting, typically puppy within 12 hours. Panting, beginning stage of labour, go to the vet. How are we doing on time? We've got time for more. Gary Edge. I have a blue French Bulldog bitch. Why is blue considered as undesirable? She is a healthy girl with none of the problems associated with breeding. Just wondering.
Do what?
Tammy's driving session, obviously.
Yeah.
No, blue is not associated as undesirable. It's desirable for most people.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
It's been doing it for years and years. Gosh.
So what the problem here is there's 2 reasons that you hear this a lot less now than it used to about blue being problematic in terms of the health of a dog. So here's the reasons why this argument is. The first and most likely one is those people are in the show ring and they don't like these other colours that can't be in a show ring. So for that reason, they want to knock anything that's not part of their camp. That is the number one reason. I'm telling you, that is the number one reason. The second reason is that when you start to get new colours, right now we've got things like pinks, that they are very small genetic pool, and because of that there are problems associated with small genetic pools in terms of having recessive genes that can pop up and cause problems, and it's a real thing. When you start looking at things like blue dogs, chocolate dogs, they've been around for 15 years, and I promise you the gene pool for those dogs is no different than the gene pool from the show dogs, the fawns and the brindles. So it's just not an issue. Others will chime in on this and say differently, but I'm telling you, that's my take on it, and I think it's right. And that is your 10-minute mark. So we will now say adios. Thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate people who subscribe to me. It helps me, encourage me to do more of these videos. But do remember, disclaimer here, I am not a vet. I'm not a licensed medical professional. I'm purely a person who's been breeding dogs for the last couple of decades. Any information that you got from this video, use at your own risk. There's nothing implied here, and certainly this should not be used as a substitute for advice from your veterinarian or your medical professional. I hope you enjoyed the video. Come back for more of them. Bye.